So this was the beginning, according to the Cree. There was only water and sky. The earth as we know it had not yet formed. The Creator, known by many names, brought the world into being through thought and breath. All life came from this breath: plants, animals, humans, and the spirits of the land. One of the first beings was Wisakancha, a powerful and wise spirit often called a trickster, a teacher, and a transformer. He was not the creator himself, but was tasked with guiding creation, shaping the world, and teaching people how to live. At some point, the world fell out of balance. People and spirits stopped respecting the land. To cleanse it, the Creator sent a great flood that covered everything. Only Wisakancha survived, floating on a log in the vast water, alongside animals who had also escaped the rising waters: otter, muskrat, beaver, and loon. Wisakancha knew the world had to be remade, so he asked the animals for help. Who will dive deep beneath the water and bring back a piece of the old earth so we can start again? One by one, the animals tried. Loon dove deep but couldn't reach the bottom. Otter dove and failed. Beaver, though strong, did not make it either. Finally, it was Muskrat, small, often overlooked, who volunteered. He dove, deeper and deeper, longer than any of the others. When he finally floated back up, he was lifeless, but he clutched in his paw a tiny clump of soil. Wisakancha took the soil and placed it on the back of the turtle, who agreed to carry the new earth on her back. From that small clump, the land began to grow, first hills and valleys, then forests, rivers, and eventually a whole new world. This is how Turtle Island came to be. In 1891, Wilhelm Bulls emigrated from Germany to Canada. He brought with him this little steamer trunk, and these are a couple of things that he brought with him and the family. So you can see from their wedding in 1887, this little wreath is made from the wedding flowers and boutonnieres. You can see the date on the little inscription in the middle. And also, in the back, we have this wooden vegetable slicer board, which is, not difficult to recognize. And these little molds here are for making butter. Just a couple of the things that he decided were really necessary to bring with him for the new life. Here we see this really well-preserved Métis coat and scarf. These come from about 1850. The sash is an important piece of clothing adopted from French-Canadian voyageurs. It's decorative and functional. Sashes were used to tie a coat, like the one beside it. And this men's coat is made of deerskin, decorated with porcupine quill embroidery in a traditional flower pattern. It's actually cut to a more European style and fringed, and probably was a special coat more than a daily wear thing. In the year 1827, the Blackfoot were still in this area, but soon afterwards they moved south, close to the American border, to barter with the traders. The Cree Indians were originally woodland dwellers of central Canada. They were moving west from settlement to settlement every 10 years or so. By the middle of the 19th century, they were in this area and called the Plains Cree. They brought guns and iron goods with them as they moved into this part of Alberta. The Clearwater Creek and the Raven River are very close together at their point of origins in Alberta. Clearwater Creek flows into the North Saskatchewan, and the Raven River flows into the Red Deer River, which empties into the South Saskatchewan. The Northwest Company and the Hudson's Bay Company were rivals for the fur trade in these areas, and the former used the Montreal to France route, while the latter, Churchill to Great Britain. Tall Creek Village was established in the early part of 1870 and was settled by the Indians and Métis. They trapped and hunted mainly in this part of the country. By the 1880s, the millions of buffalo that used to cross this land right here were completely gone. It was an extinction event unlike anything in human history. According to government documents, entire communities of people were reduced to eating their pets, their horses, and even trying to eat boiled leathers. Just decades earlier, there were enough buffalo still here to supply food and tools to all of the populations of central Alberta and all of Alberta. But without that lifeline, they had to turn to the settlers for supplies and help. Louis Riel was a political and spiritual leader of the Métis people, those of mixed Indigenous and European ancestry who lived throughout the prairies in the 19th century. Born in 1844 in the Red River Settlement, in what is now Manitoba, Riel became a passionate defender of Métis rights, land, and culture. He first rose to prominence in 1869, leading the Red River Resistance, which helped bring Manitoba into Confederation. But in the decades that followed, Métis families were pushed further west. They settled in areas that would become Saskatchewan and Alberta, including St. Albert, Lac St. Anne, and Lac La Biche. There, they hunted, traded, and farmed, trying to preserve their way of life. When Starvation Winter of 1883-84 arrived, the bison were gone, government rations were spoiled or denied altogether, and Métis and Indigenous communities across the West faced widespread famine. Obviously frustrated by land dispossession and neglect, Métis leaders here asked Riel to return from exile in Montana. He came back in 1884, determined to make their voices heard. Riel drafted a Bill of Rights calling for land protections and led negotiations. Ultimately, diplomacy failed this time and tensions boiled over. In 1885, armed conflict erupted near Batoche in Saskatchewan. Major fighting didn't reach Alberta, but the Métis here were deeply affected. The Northwest Resistance ended in May, when Riel was captured, tried for treason, and hanged on November 16th of 1885. During the Starvation Winter, there was a lot less available to hunt than people were used to. And even if there was a lot available, people were now restricted to their treaty zones and couldn't wander after the buffalo to bring them home. So they became really reliant on the settlers to distribute what they needed to survive. Unfortunately, a lot of these settlers in positions of power were not all that invested in the survival and thriving communities of the native people. During that winter, every needy Indigenous person who applied for help with food received the equivalent of this to last for 4 days. That's 1/4 of a pound of meat and 1/2 of a pound of grain. In all, this is about 1,500 calories worth of food, which, as you probably know, is enough to last a day. For over 6,000 years, Indigenous people in the Americas have grown what they call the 3 sisters: corn, squash, and beans. These crops originated in Mexico and South America, where early agricultural societies learned to plant them together in a powerful, sustainable system. Corn grows tall and strong, beans climb the stalks and fix nitrogen in the soil, and squash spreads wide to keep the weeds down and moisture in. Over centuries, the knowledge of the three sisters moved north through trade, migration, and cultural exchange. By the late 1700s and early 1800s, they were being cultivated as far north as central Alberta by Cree, Nakota, and Métis communities living near river valleys and mission gardens. Though Alberta's harsh winters shortened the growing season, these crops thrived in the summer and became staples in both subsistence and ceremony. So in goes squash and a potato. Beans and corn. Yep, come on over. Okay. Next, we're making a roux, which means mixing fat and flour together to thicken something up. I'm gonna do the walnut oil again. Let's see how much we have left of that. Probably enough. That's a good spoonful. And then temper that with a spoonful of, again, brown flour. There we go. See, equal parts fat and flour gives you a roux. And when you add it to something that's cooking already, whether it's a sauce or a soup like this, let's turn this up a little bit. It will thicken the water as it cooks. So we're going to put that in there. Get the temperature back up. And let it simmer for about 5 minutes. And it'll break up completely and we'll just get a thicker sort of broth. So this is called Three Sisters soup, because of the squash, the corn, and the beans. Oh, buddy.
Oh, pinche puto. Pinche cabrón.
Okay, there. It's pretty hot, but take a look, see if you can get a sip. What do you remember about corn and beans?
Well, like I said, with my grandpa, right?
Yeah.
In the ranch, I just remember that I saw him, going to this. Is this Queen? Mm-hmm. So I remember my grandpa going in the ranch, and I was pretty little. So the memory that I have is like, he goes, and then, when they go put the seeds and stuff.
When he's planting.
He was planting, and then it was corn, but also I didn't know because he put the seed for corn and also put beans.
Okay.
But he always say that every seed of corn, it has to be 2 seeds of beans.
See?
So it's kind of like the.
So you knew it without knowing that you knew it.
I know, but I mean I remember that, right?
Okay.
Like back in the day, and and it was like. In the time, I didn't not even know what was that for, right?
Exactly.
But
because they grow really well together. I think you've been doing it for like thousands of years.
Yeah, and that to me is like how both of them grow in the same time, right?
Yeah.
Because it's.
Yeah. Well, the corn just goes straight up, and the beans are always, they're kind of like ivy. They're viney.
Yeah.
They're always looking for something to grab. And go. So.
But to me, always like how sometimes other plants take more time, and then they're together, so it just happens.
Works out beautifully.
But this is looking good. So nice.
So
Dorian?
yeah, at the time, this is genuinely a soup that you could have had. There
So this is the
herbs.
three.
I don't know. It's Three Sisters soup, according to hold that thought. Somebody's recipe book.
So what is the name? Why is the name like Three Sisters?
Because those are The corn, the squash, and the beans,
And the beans.
are sisters. They
Okay.
grew from Mother Earth.
Okay.
Yes. So you plant them together and you eat them together. Let's see.
So it was like a.
It's from the Native Women's Association of Canada. They did a book called Traditional Foods and Recipes on the Wild Side, and that's where I got this recipe.
Okay. So this is not like a, like from Europe thing. It's more like.
No, this is a completely American thing.
Like an.
American continental thing.
Really good.